In this video, we'll be discussing the different types of childcare that are available in the UK. This video will be done in two parts due to the sheer number of different types of childcare provisions available to look after your child. These two videos will be useful whether you are a parent trying to figure out what type of childcare you want or need for your child, or whether you're looking to start your own childcare business and are wondering what you need to do, or even if you're just curious as to what the different types of childcare there is. A really quick introduction of myself before we get started is that I run a nursery in London, and I also teach people how to open their own nursery or home childcare via the courses you can see on the screen. And I also help people through general consultancy and guidance. Something that is new though is that I have a children's book coming out, which helps children better understand their emotions and anxiety, so do look out for it. In this video, we will list the different types of childcare, of which, as I said, there are quite a few. For them, I will let you know the qualifications that you need to work in them, the regulations around them, including ratio requirements. This should give you an idea of the level of education you can expect from the childcare provision, as well as how safe the provision is going to be. As the less children a childcare provider can look after, and the more regulated it is, the safer your child should be, in theory. I will also briefly explain how to set up each type as well. This will be most useful for those who are looking to work as or in any of these childcare providers. That if you did want to learn more about how to set up a home childcare or a nursery, I do provide more in-depth support in the courses which I just mentioned. If you are looking to learn about a specific type of childcare, you can also skip to the childcare provider that you would like to hear more about by checking the times in the description. In this video, we'll be discussing nurseries, preschools, nannies, au pairs and babysitters. And in the next video, we'll discuss childminders, home child carers or childcare on domestic premises, group play sessions and creches. Of this list, in the categories, some will be mandatorily registered, like nurseries and home child carers and childminders. This means that they have to register with regulatory bodies like Ofsted or the Care Inspectorate, and they ensure that the childcare is safe and up to a certain standard. I will go through in detail what it means to be a registered childcare provider and the benefits of this in a future video, so do make sure you subscribe to find out when this comes out. Others from the list can choose to be registered like nannies, whereas others will be unregistered like babysitters. But we'll get started with discussing nurseries. Nurseries are one of the most well-known types of childcare. They may also be referred to as day nurseries, forest nursery schools, Montessori nurseries, playgroups. They do also include preschools and creches too, but we'll discuss these separately. Generally, nurseries look after children from roughly 3 months old until they go to school at 5 years old. Their hours tend to be from 8 AM to 6 PM, though some, like my nursery, open a bit longer. Most nurseries are open from Monday to Friday, but you will find increasingly you are getting more that open on different times and on different days, like night nurseries or weekend nurseries. This is done to offer more support to parents due to many more people having varied working hours. Again, most nurseries tend to open all year round with the exception of bank holidays and some closing for a week or two over Christmas and New Year's, though you can get some that are open on these days and some that are just open during term time, which means they close during the school holidays. The majority of nurseries offer free early education places that are available to 2, 3 and 4-year-olds. This usually entitles them to 11 free hours per week or 22 hours per week, as nurseries tend to spread their hours throughout the whole year as opposed to offering 15 hours over 38 weeks. Like preschool do, they offer 11 hours over 51 weeks, so you get the same amount of hours just spread over the whole year. They are also eligible to accept other types of funding like tax-free childcare or universal credits. So to find out more information about the different ways to help with childcare costs, click the link to the article in the description. I will also try to explain this in a future video, so do look out for it by clicking that subscribe button. The average cost for nurseries vary depending on what part of the country you live in, and the cost, like most things in the UK, is generally highest in London. The cost for 2-year-olds is generally higher than for under 2s, and the cost for 3-year-olds and older is usually the cheapest. This is primarily because the staffing ratio is needed to look after the different age groups, which I'll go through in a moment. So the cost for the average 2-year-old attending part-time, which is roughly 25 hours per week, is £132.56, which works out at roughly £6,893 for the year. Under 2s are slightly higher, costing £137.69 per week for the same hours, which works out at roughly £7,160 for the year. A full-time place for the same group costs £263.81 per week for an under 2 on average, which is £13,720 per year. and the average cost for a full-time place for a 2-year-old is £254.44 per week, which is roughly £13,230. This is assuming that a full-time place is 50 hours per week, though some do more than this and some do less. As mentioned, the price difference for the different age groups is primarily because of the different ratio requirements for them. Ofsted and the other regulatory bodies ensures that there is one member of staff for every 3 under 2s in the nursery, that there will be one member of staff looking after up to 4 2-year-olds. This is the main thing that affects the amount nurseries can charge. The ratios for 3-year-olds are much higher, with one member of staff being able to look after 8 children, making 3-year-olds less costly to nurseries, enabling them to charge a little bit less. These ratios are in place primarily to ensure that children are kept safe whilst at nursery. Day nurseries are not limited to the number of children they can have, so you can find nurseries that may have as little as 10 children or even less, and others may be registered for over 100 children. Although the number of children a nursery can have range vastly, this is all based on the size of the building that the nursery is in. The bigger the building, the more children they can have. Most staff in the nursery will have a qualification to be able to work in them. At least one member of staff will hold a level 3 childcare qualification to ensure they are confident in not only protecting and safeguarding children, but also so they have an extensive knowledge of how children develop. This qualification can usually be completed within 18 months to 2 years, though if you have no experience in childcare, you will usually have to complete the level 2 first, which will take a year on top of this. Many nursery managers also hold a degree in childhood development to further support their ability to develop children. Setting up a nursery is probably one of the most complicated of the childcare provisions to do. I have a video explaining how to do this, which you can find a link to at the end of this video, plus courses to further support this, which you can find in the description. As I already have info on how to set up a nursery in this channel and on the courses, I won't go into how to do this in this video. We will therefore move on to the next type of childcare, which are preschools. As I mentioned in the nursery section, preschools are very similar to nurseries and usually fall into the nursery category. Preschools provide play and education sessions for children between 2 and 5 years old. Most preschools will open 5 mornings a week, with some providing afternoon sessions as well. Some have flexibility on the sessions your child can attend, while others are more structured, with children attending 5 full mornings or 5 full afternoons. Preschools and playgroups tend to run term time only, from around 9 AM to lunchtime, or from lunchtime to around 3 to 4 PM, depending on the sessions they operate. Opening term time only means that they close over Easter, half terms, Christmas, and the 6 weeks over summer, meaning preschools are open for around 38 weeks in the year. Some preschools are associated or attached to a school, but this is not necessary for them to be a preschool, though preschools are less likely to be in a purpose-built building and are usually ran from community venues like churches and halls. You will find that a lot are run as a pack-away setting, meaning that they set up in the morning and then pack away everything at the end of the day. This can be cumbersome for staff, but is usually imposed by the owner of the building that the preschool is leasing from. Often you will find that preschools are run by the local council or by voluntary committees, though there are an increasing number of private preschools also. As with nurseries, all preschools must be registered with the country's regulatory body, whether that be Ofsted for England, the Care Inspectorate for Wales and Scotland, or the Health and Social Services Board for Northern Ireland. As they're open for shorter hours, the average weekly cost for a preschool is less than it is for nurseries, with the average weekly cost for a preschool costing £138 per week. Some do allow sessions during summer holidays, though it is usually for a reduced number of children. Some also offer extended hours for breakfast club and after school clubs, though again this is usually for a reduced number of children. Lunches and other meals aren't typically provided by preschools, and some preschools do require a child to be potty trained, though as more private preschools are being opened, more preschools will have different rules. The prices for a preschool place are usually the same for all age groups as well, as they care for children aged 2 and over. They can also claim the same funding as nurseries, like free government funding and tax-free childcare, though as they are open for 38 weeks, your free government hours will be 15 hours or 30 hours per week, unlike at nurseries where it's usually 11 hours or 22 hours. The ratio for staff remain the same as with nurseries, with one member of staff being able to look after 3 under 2s, or 4 2-year-olds, or 8 3 to 5-year-olds. And again, the number of children a preschool can look after depends primarily on the size of the building, and this is determined when registering a preschool with the country's regulatory body. The setup process is the same for with nurseries, and as I said with the nursery category, I've covered how to set this up in a previous video as well as on the courses, so I won't go into detail about it now, but you can find more information in the description. The next few types of childcare that we will discuss are all types of childcare that take place primarily in a child's home. These are nannies, au pairs, and babysitters. Although they all work primarily from the child's home, they are very different in how they are set up and the experience and the development they will bring to the child. The first we'll go into is nannying. A nanny provides childcare for one or more children in a parent's home. Many families will have a full-time nanny, but it's also popular to employ a part-time nanny or an after-school live-out nanny. Nannies who provide care for newly born babies during the night are known as night nannies. So that's some of the different types of nannies you can get. Some parents who can afford to choose nannies over other forms of childcare. This is because they are generally more flexible, as they can provide care based on your needs, which can be through the night, long-term or temporary, and can even accompany you on holiday. When hiring a nanny, you become their formal employer with all the responsibilities that come with it, including paying national insurance, providing paid holidays, and offering a workplace pension. Because of their flexibility, some parents choose to combine nannying with other forms of childcare so that their child can consistently mix with other children in their age group. As it is in your home, and with yours and your child's items, it means you have greater control over what your child uses and what your child eats. Your child is also likely to feel more comfortable than with other forms of childcare. Other benefits include the fact that you don't need to travel to the childcare provider, and your child can still be cared for if they are sick, unlike with childminders or nurseries where they usually ask you to stay home. As a nanny, you can look after two different families as long as they are primarily based in one of the children's homes. If a nanny would like to look after more than two families, they would need to register as a childminder, which we'll discuss in the next video. So as I've said before, if you want to find out more, do subscribe to find out when this video comes out. The size of the families you look after is not regulated, so you can technically look after as many children as a family has, though I believe the biggest family in the UK has around 22 children, so that's kind of your limit. Nannies do not need to register. In terms of regulation, nannies do not need to register with any regulatory body, and as such do not need to hold a DBS check, which will show whether they have a criminal past and are safe to work with children, or have any formal training. This is important to know, as you will want to make sure whoever you leave your child with is safe. Although nannies do not need to register, they can voluntarily register, and many do choose to do so, with over 71% of nannies choosing to register in the UK. There is a cost involved with registering for nannies, but it does enable nannies to be able to claim funding from parents like tax-free childcare, and it also gives an extra peace of mind for the parent. If a nanny chooses to register, they will need to have a DBS, as well as hold at least a level 2 childcare qualification and a paediatric first aid qualification. Even though most nannies do already hold this, as well as holding a first aid certificate, as 81% of nannies hold an early years qualification. The average cost for a nanny part-time, which is 25 hours per week, ranges between £250 to £400, and for full-time, which is 50 hours per week, ranges from £400 to £650 per week. This makes nannying one of the more expensive options, though this is primarily because your child or children will get one-to-one care and because of the extra work that nannies do. Though this estimate doesn't include national insurance and other payments you have to make on top of their wage. If you were planning to set up as a nanny, it is advisable to register with your country's regulatory body. This is quite simple and takes roughly 12 weeks. You just need to go to the Ofsted website, the Care Inspectorate website, or the Health and Social Services Board website for England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland respectively. There are fees to pay in order to register, though the total cost to register should be less than a few £100s, which includes paying for your DBS and first aid qualifications. Though if you don't hold a childcare qualification, this will increase your costs and make the process longer. Another type of childcare is an au pair. An au pair is a young person aged between 18 and 30 without any dependents. They are very similar to nannies in the fact that they work in the child's home, though the main difference is that they do not need to be paid above the minimum wage, and most do not get paid any formal wage at all. An au pair will usually live with the family full time. They should be treated and seen as a member of the family. The benefit to an au pair is that they receive free education, free food, and the ability to learn English and learn about Britain. A lot of au pairs will be doing so in order to improve their English. Although a lot of au pairs will come from abroad, they do also come from the UK or Republic of Ireland. And anyone coming from abroad will need to make sure they have the correct visa. They are in a similar category as Nanny and can register if they want to through Nannying, though it is not essential. In order to be classed as an au pair and not any other form of childcare, they must meet most of a particular list of criteria, which includes things like having a signed letter of invitation from the host family, which would include details of their stay, for example, accommodation, living cost, approximate working hours, the amount of free time they're given, and the amount of pocket money they will receive. Information showing that they wish to learn about the British culture from the host family and share their culture with them. They will have to be provided with their own private room in the house, free of charge. They will need to show that they will eat their main meals with the host family, also free of charge. You need to show that they'll be doing light housework and childcare for around 30 hours a week, including a couple of evenings babysitting, and show that they get a reasonable pocket money. The list of criteria is longer than this, and not all of this will be applicable, but most will need to be in order to be classed as an au pair. As au pairs are not formally regulated, though the family will be to ensure that the au pair is fairly treated, au pairs do not need to hold any qualifications, and there are no other rules around this other than what has already been mentioned. The average amount an au pair is paid, which is referred to as pocket money, is £90 per week, though as I mentioned they do have other benefits like free rent and free food. If you want to work as or hire an au pair, there are various websites you can use to do so, and becoming an au pair is fairly simple. Aupair.com is a great website to get started on your research on this. The final type of childcare that we'll be discussing in this video is babysitters, though we'll be discussing more types of childcare in the next video, including other home childcare providers and group play sessions. Babysitting is unregulated and it is your responsibility as a parent to do checks on a babysitter. You can ask other parents for recommendations or check reviews online. You should do the same checks you would do when hiring any other person or organisation to look after your child, which would include reference checks, DBS checks, proof of identity, finding out whether they are first aid trained, and possibly checking whether they have any childcare experience or qualifications, as would be expected. Unlike most other types of childcare, babysitters rarely babysit as a career, and they will usually be on an ad hoc basis. Babysitters will offer childcare for multiple families on a part-time basis. They will only work for a few hours at a time when parents need to be out of the house. A babysitter is usually paid per hour as opposed to being salaried, and they may have various families which they work with. They usually work between 6 p.m. or 2 a.m. or up to 2 to 3 hours during the day, and it is usually at the child's home. Babysitters don't usually have as much responsibility as other types of childcare and will usually just come to the house and play with the children for a few hours when needed. They may make children food as well whilst they're there if it's needed, but they are generally not paid or expected to do this. As I said before, babysitters may or may not be qualified and usually wouldn't have as much knowledge about child development as a nanny would. Though as a lot are also nursery workers, childminders or even nannies, either currently or previously, it is likely that they will have some form of childcare qualification. Many babysitters will only work a few hours, therefore they may not be as flexible and may only be available on a planned basis. With a babysitter, you generally have more control over what you expect them to do, for example asking them to do school pickups, cooking, etc., though this would usually require a higher payment. Unlike nannies or au pairs, they are not considered as an employee or part of the family, and as such you are not responsible for their hiring or employee rights. The average hourly rate for babysitter is around £8 to £10 per hour. Many will work for many families at a time, though there is no regulations on how many children they can look after. If you wanted to become a babysitter, it is fairly simple and it's just about you getting your name out there to potential parents. There are no setup costs apart from potentially marketing, and there are a lot of websites that can help you connect to parents like childcare.co.uk or on the Bubble app. So those are the 5 different types of childcare providers we'll be discussing in this video. Make sure you subscribe to learn about the next 4 types of childcare in the next video. On the screen you can see a table comparing the ones we've just discussed. You can see the ratios and average costs and whether they require a qualification to be one. If you have any other questions about any of these childcare, then do not hesitate to ask in the comment section below. I know finding all this information can be difficult and confusing, so I do hope this video has made finding childcare clearer and easier for you. If you have liked the video and have learned something from it, don't forget to hit that like button below. It's really easy to do and it does really help support the channel. If you want to learn more about opening a nursery, then click the video on the screen that will be coming up shortly. If you have watched that video already, or you're more serious about opening a nursery and wanted step-by-step guidance on how to do so, then you can enroll on the course that is being shown on the screen now. Open a nursery in just 6 months. On the course, it takes you through the steps you need to do in order to open your own nursery, from registering with Ofsted to finding staff, finding a building, and planning your marketing. You can finally get your nursery business off the ground with this course. It is one of the most informative courses available to help you to start your nursery in the UK. So click the link in the description to enroll. Plus, get an extra 10% off the course using discount code YouTube1. If opening a nursery is your goal, then click the link now and get started today. I look forward to supporting you. Finally, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video or on the course. God bless.